Well, if Texans didn't vote early, today was V-Day for their last shot at the state's vote on constitutional amendments. ABC 10 First News for you Tuesday starts right now. Good Tuesday to you, everybody. I'm Bob Brynne. Today, Texans are voting on the constitutional election. ABC 10's Abby Heyman joining us from Denison with more on the election. Abby?
That's right, Bob. There has been some pretty steady foot traffic coming here in and out of the Denison polling location. Polls opened at 7 a.m. this morning, and they will be open until 7 p.m. Today, Texans will be voting on 14 different propositions that have the potential to change the Constitution. Many of these amendments are addressing Texas' growing population, such as Proposition 6 and Proposition 8, which would deal with funding for increasing water projects and broadband internet across the state. Proposition 4 would increase the property exemption, the tax property exemptions, from $40,000 to $100,000. The polls will be open for just under 3 more hours. Tonight, we will have the results of the election on our sister station's website at KTEN.com. For now, in Denison, Abby Heyman, KTEN News.
That special legislative session ended today in Texas. Only 2 pieces of legislation made it to the governor's desk. One bill banned employer COVID vaccine mandates. Another increases penalties for smuggling illegal immigrants. Still nothing on school vouchers. Another special session begins this afternoon at 5. You certainly cannot blame weather or bad weather for voting here in North Texas. Man, it's been another gorgeous day.
Yeah, 80s widespread. We have plenty of sunshine. Winds a little breezy at times, but that was as expected. And it is just a warm and nice day if you're going to head to the polls for the next few hours. Nothing stopping you weather-wise. We had a few clouds in eastern counties earlier this morning and then into this afternoon. Most of those have cleared on out. Heading into this evening, clear skies with some 70s all the way through 8 and 9 o'clock with south winds about 10 to 20 miles per hour. Sunset there at 5:30, and going forwards into the next few days, we are going to see some changes on the way in terms of those temperatures. The cold front arrives Wednesday evening into Thursday. Before then, gusts over 30 tonight, gusts over 25 tomorrow afternoon, and then here comes that cold front. We'll talk more about what this does with our temperatures as well as rain chances for Thursday coming up. Bob.
All right, Mandy. Today marks the 1 month since more than 1,400 men, women, and children were massacred in southern Israel by Hamas terrorists. More than 200 others have taken hostage there. ABC's Inez de la Cuatera reports from Israel.
Exactly 1 month ago, Hamas militants stormed across Israel's southern border with Gaza, killing more than 1,400 people there, according to Israeli authorities. Military officials also saying Hamas has taken more than 200 people hostage. Today around the country, Israeli citizens pause to remember the victims of the terror attack.
There isn't any word that can describe the atmosphere, the very, very deep sorrow.
Smoke rising over Gaza again as more airstrikes pound the area. The IDF releasing footage claiming to show its troops destroying tunnels built by Hamas in northern Gaza as they prepare their ground assault in Gaza City. Over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed in the conflict, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, while more than 25,000 have been injured.
They show their might and power against civilians. Babies inside, kids inside.
Israel faces backlash from the Arab world over continued bombardments. Speaking exclusively to ABC's David Muir, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ruled out a humanitarian pause in the fighting unless Hamas releases the more than 200 hostages it's holding.
As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before, but I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire.
As the bombardment reduces entire towns in the territory to rubble, Netanyahu was asked about what happens in Gaza after the war.
President Biden has said that it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza.
I think Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility because we've seen what happens when we don't have it.
And Rafah border officials released a new list today of 600 foreign passport holders allowed to leave Gaza through Egypt. There were no new American names on the list. Inez de la Cuatera, ABC News, Jerusalem.
2 weeks after a jury found Ebby Wade guilty of murder, he's going back to court. Wade's going to appeal his conviction Wednesday. Court records show he is once again choosing to represent himself. Wade received the maximum sentence, life in prison and a $10,000 fine for the 2020 killing of Amelia Gunnels. The Texas Education Agency released financial accountability ratings for the 22-23 school year. Most Grayson County school districts received top marks, but for the third year in a row, Tioga Public Schools received an F. If Tioga does not raise its score in the next few years, the state will not recognize Tioga schools as a district. The former president taking the stand now in that civil trial brought on by the state attorney general in New York. During his testimony, he pushed back at the judge and the AG, claiming political bias. ABC's Morgan Norwood reports from New York.
Blasting the civil fraud trial against him and his sons.
This is a scam.
A defiant Donald Trump, after concluding his testimony, continued his criticism outside the courtroom.
And this is a case that should have never been brought.
Emotions running high as Trump testified for roughly 5 hours Monday in New York Attorney General Letitia James's $250 million civil fraud case against Trump, his sons, and the Trump Organization. While on the stand, Trump railing against the judge, who was already determined they and the company defrauded banks by overvaluing his assets and inflating his net worth. The judge, who was also the jury in this case, becoming visibly frustrated by Trump's comments, at one point asking Trump's attorney, "Can you control your client? This is not a political rally. This is a courtroom."
And Donald Trump is insulting the jury. He knows this case is basically over. He's hoping that this judge lashes out. He's hoping that this judge does things that he'll be able to use on appeal.
Trump eventually conceded that he reduced the value of at least 2 properties in his financial statements because he felt they were inflated. However, he mostly deflected any blame to his accountants. With Trump's testimony and that of his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, now complete, his daughter Ivanka now expected to be the state's final witness. She's not a defendant in this case, but prosecutors believe she has useful information about how the Trump Organization was run. In an earlier deposition, she denied involvement.
Sure, he has accountants who do all sorts of stuff, have all sorts of stuff. But no, sorry,
Right.
I don't specifically know what was prepared on his behalf.
So after Trump's defense puts on their case, the judge will decide how much is owed in damages and whether to ban him and his sons from doing business in New York. I'm Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
The Daily Caller reporting on comments from former President Trump's attorney during his civil case in New York. Network reports had New York State's State Attorney General Letitia James saying to the cameras, "Numbers don't lie." Here's what former President Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, had to say in her rebuttal.
Well, Miss James, I have a message for you. The numbers didn't lie when you ran for governor, and that's why you dropped out. And the numbers don't lie when President Trump runs for office in 2024. And those numbers are loud and clear. This country is falling apart. And if we don't stop corruption in courtrooms where attorneys are gagged, where attorneys are not allowed to say what they need to say to protect their clients' interests, it doesn't matter what your politics are. Everyone has a right in this country to get up and put a defense. I don't care who you are. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can put objections on the record. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can stand up and say something when they see something wrong. But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here.
The judge in the former president's civil trial expanded the gag order against the former president Friday to apply to Habba and his other 2 attorneys, Christopher Keese and Clifford Robert. The former president has been fined $5,000 and $10,000 on 2 separate occasions and being accused of violating his gag order. Some Bryan County first responders on the receiving end of a hefty donation. Natural gas company Midship Pipeline donated $8,500 each to 3 southern Oklahoma agencies. The recipients, Durant Fire Department, Bennington Rural Volunteer Fire Department, and Bryan County Emergency Management.
So currently we're looking at possibly buying another thermal imaging camera with the ever-increasing cost of that type of equipment, and with this large sum of money, that could be something that we look at purchasing.
According to a release from Midship, they selected recipients based on how close they are to the pipeline's Bryan County compressor station. If you're only accused of domestic violence, you may not be allowed to own a firearm. That's what Supreme Court justices are eyeing today. More on the case straight ahead. And one major carrier already talking Thanksgiving travel numbers, and we'll hear what the gang at United are predicting.
Well, we are going to be seeing more record high temperatures on the way heading into Wednesday. We'll talk how high those numbers could climb coming up. First, though, that outdoor forecast sponsored by the Crazy AC Guy.